Hey everybody, this is Captain Kyle and I'm here with a special Versus review. Here we have the Combiner Wars version of Devastator. Hasbro official, pretty damn cool. Here we have a knockoff, which is smaller, but in all other ways exactly the same. They're both very cool, but we're gonna compare them character by character and then again in merged modes and see which one is right for your collection. Be right back. So let's start with the leader of the Constructicons, Scrapper. Now, Scrapper, unlike a lot of the leaders of the different groups, doesn't make the main body. Like Motormaster and Onslaught, they're the main body of the combined form. And he is the right leg. So I guess it's kind of like putting your right foot forward. Something like that. But he is the leader. Now, here we have the Hasbro official Combiner Wars one, and this is the knockoff. As you can see, they are virtually identical in robot mode. Just one's a little smaller. But Scrapper undoubtedly was the leader. I mean, Hook, way too much of a prima donna. And, you know, long hauls like, you know, hey, I didn't join this outfit to be no dump truck. So it had to be Scrapper. He's very cool. His head turns. He doesn't bend at the elbow, but he bends at the shoulders, and you can actually come in for a hug if you want. And a cat if you want. He's gonna ride the cat. Unlike the original, his legs do spread, and therefore he can mount a cat like so. But then, you know, as soon as the cat moves. He does bend at the knee, again, unlike the original, which was much smaller. And he does have the swivel in his feet, so you can actually put him in some pretty cool dynamic poses. And I'm glad to say that the knockoff, same level of posability, can bend at the knee. Again, you can't bend at the elbow, you can twist at the elbow. So, you know, you could have him, if he had a gun, be like, you know, gangster style, which, you know, never made too much sense and would probably not be the best way to fire a weapon. Now, one thing that was disappointing to me about both the knockoff set and the Hasbro set, other than the fact that my cat has a tendency to knock them over, is the fact that they did not come with individual weapons. Yes, there's supposedly weapons for Bonecrusher and Scavenger, but they're kind of blocky and not all that. So I did order some custom weapons that will be going out to these guys, but I figured I wanted to do this now and not wait till the weapon showed up. But I put a link in the description to those weapons in case you want to get some too. Well, they're going to fit these guys. I don't think they're going to fit the undersized knockoffs. Now, the transformation is clever, but it's not overly complex. It is a bit more complex than the original Constructicons, which, you know, were rather simplistic in their transformation. And the transformation sequence for the knockoff, exactly the same as the actual official product. But they roll around, they're power shovels, they can dig out some stuff, maybe help out Supernatural because they have to do a lot of digging in there. Now, the knockoff does not have a Decepticon symbol. It has almost a Decepticon symbol, as you can see there. But of course, you can always get some repro stickers and replace that if you so choose. Quality-wise, the plastic actually feels very similar. This might be slightly heavier, but of course it's bigger. Quality-wise on the knockoff, just as good as the actual Hasbro toy, which, I mean, the plastic doesn't feel like super quality. It's a toy, but I don't expect it to just be brittle and fall apart. So next we have Bonecrusher, and I have to say that Bonecrusher was my favorite of the original Constructicons, just because he had one of the best robot modes, and he just seemed like a cool dude. Again, the smaller one, the knockoff, identical. Posability, you know, his legs can move all over the place. They can both do full Jean-Claude Van Damme's. His arms do bend at the elbow and go in many directions. His head turns. So a little bit better posability than the leader, Scrapper. So lots of dynamic poses are possible. He does have the hinges on his feet, so he can have a wide stance and still put his foot down solidly. So it's basically Bonecrusher and his little brother. Again, transformation on these guys is not too difficult, though I must admit that when I first got my knockoff set, I was a little unsure of how to transform it because it did not come with any directions, which was unfortunate. But when I got my Combiner War set, I got more into transforming them. I could have probably figured it out, but I've got so many Transformers. Who's got the time? I just kept him in Devastator mode, which I could very easily put him in. I do have to say, when transformed, some of these guys are very, very solid. Some of the 80s Transformers, you could kind of tell that they weren't normal cars. With these guys, it's kind of hard to tell that they're not just construction vehicles. So there you go, two very functional, rambunctious bulldozers. They do have little itty bitty wheels on the bottom. I have to say that the one on the undersized one doesn't really roll that much. Hasbro official one does roll on these two little wheels, but I mean, it's still sliding, which, you know, the original didn't roll at all, so. But obviously the treads can't actually move. That was a nightmare with Rampage. Working treads, but very cool bulldozers, very good representations of our dear friend Bonecrusher. So here we have Scavenger. Scavenger was always kind of a whiny punk, but he could detect things. And what I like about this new design, obviously the posability much better. He can't quite do a full, oh wait, he can do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme, except for, you know, the power shovel in the back. But the original one had the power shovel coming off and kind of going downwards, and it just kind of was there. This is a little more compact. I kind of like this new idea better. And of course, he does have very similar posability to our dear friend Bonecrusher. You can get some dynamic poses. They could even do a little bit of disco dancing if they so chose, which pretty much every 80s cartoon, they did disco dancing for some reason, or break dancing. But again, both of them are good representations. I think his vehicle mode is called a backhoe. I am not sure, I'm not an expert in all things construction. So there they are, two backhoes. But I mean, they're kind of the things are facing forward, so would they be front hose? If you know what this particular type of machine is called, please leave it in the comments. But again, a very cool version of Scavenger, and he can duel with his smaller self. And he rolls a little bit better than Bonecrusher because he not only has the two wheels, but he has this little rolly thing there. Roll bar. That's an entirely different Transformer. It almost looks like a rolling pin. Maybe he likes to bake. Mixmaster. Here he is, very large and very small. His head, despite being inside here, does turn. I like the fact that he's got the two little prongs that are kind of reminiscent of the missiles that he used to have sticking out of the hole above his head. And as far as posability, he's not quite as posable as our friends. I have to say that the smaller version is quite stiff. So his arms don't quite move as much, but he can shrug. He can bend at the elbow, though his elbow joint makes him look kind of wimpy. He can bend his knees. He can, again, push out to the side. This big honkin' drum on his back does not allow him really to do the full Jean-Claude Van Damme. But again, definitely an upgrade from the original. So let's check out his cement mixer mode. Now, one thing I'll say about Mixmaster is that he does have one of the simpler transformations into vehicle mode of the Constructicons in this set. And he rolls well enough, makes a bit of noise while he rolls. Less on the smaller version. But while I'm not versed in all the different kinds of cement mixers, this front does not look like a normal cement mixer to me. It actually looks more like an armored car. And with the wheels retracted like that, it's almost like a cockpit. Again, this might be accurate to some cement mixers. Definitely not reminiscent of the original version of this toy. So in that, I think they fell down a little bit. But still, both of these are cool, and I'm sure they serve their purpose. Two more to go. So here we have Hook, who once said to Soundwave, "No one would follow an uncharismatic boy like you." And you know, he might be right. A lot of people do like Soundwave though. His head turns, his arms, they do move. Again, The blockiness of his construction actually interferes with some of the movement, but he bends at the elbows. Again, it's that weird hinge joint that basically makes his elbow disappear. But he can bend at the knee, he can adjust his feet, be in very interesting poses, measure things down to a billionth of a astro millimeter, astro inch. I don't remember the line. And very reminiscent with the hook coming down his back. So let's check out the vehicle mode. What I am noticing about these Constructicons is usually there's some place for a leg or an arm to plug into, so it doesn't come out of place. Though the original Constructicons were pretty solid in their vehicle modes overall. So again, great representations of the original hook. Rolls around. In this case, I have to say that the knockoff one, having trouble getting him to roll around quite as well, but he's still a cool version of the vehicle. One thing I don't like about this new version is the hook. It does not extend. The original one extended. It was a very small, relatively inexpensive toy. They couldn't have given him the ability to extend his hook. I don't know if it was a cost consideration or concern about breakage, but yeah, I really wish they had made the hook extendable. But still, not going to complain too much, especially when Devastator's on the horizon. And finally, the biggest Constructicon of this set, Long Haul. The Constructicon who didn't join this outfit to be no dump truck. Voiced by Greg Berger in the original series, who also did the voice of Grimlock. Very solid character. Very solid toy. Yes, you can bend him at the knee, and he can kind of bend stiffly, you know, a little bit there. The arms, you can do this like weird waving thing, and you can move them at the shoulder. You can turn his head, but this one is probably the least posable just because of the nature of his limbs, and he's probably on par with Scrapper, but Scrapper seems a little more, I don't know, refined. Both of these are very cool, and let's check out the dump truck. So both long hauls are pretty solid. Not a lot of room in the back of the truck for dirt or anything really, but considering his role in forming Devastator, he should be pretty sturdy and the biggest one. The transformation is one of the simpler ones again, but he rolls around. It's pretty cool. But here's the part you were waiting for. Devastator. Nothing can defeat Devastator except, you know, like a hologram or an arm or Bruticus or broadsides or Wheeljack's devices. There's all kinds of things that can beat Devastator. Now, Devastator in the comics was created by Shockwave. The Constructicons were built by him and imbued with life with the creation matrix that was contained within Optimus Prime's disembodied head. Yeah. In the cartoon, they were built on Earth by Megatron and his Decepticons, or they were converted by the Robo Smasher on Cybertron because they used to be friends with Omega Supreme, or there used to be 8 of them and they all built Megatron. The actual origin of Devastator is so murky and has been in the cartoon shown so many different ways that really, unless the Constructicons that built Megatron were different Constructicons, but yeah, it's, who knows. Now, like the original Devastator, you need some additional pieces in order to form this guy. I know a lot of the other Combiner Wars things had a lot of built-in pieces, so you didn't really need to add much, if anything. But we're talking Devastator here, so you gotta put together a few things. These are those idiotic guns that are supposed to be Bonecrushers and Scavengers, but I mean, what they're gonna hold, it looks like they're holding lights for a movie, not missile launchers. And you won't be surprised to hear that the mini one also has the same pieces, only smaller. Now, in the instructions, it's interesting that Long Haul is the only one that they suggest you start in robot mode when putting together Devastator. So there you have it. This is obviously the Combiner Wars Devastator, much taller than this knockoff version, which again, exact in every way except the size. I do have to say, this was actually easier to put together than this, because the connector for Bonecrusher actually has an internal snap on here, which it doesn't on here. I don't know if it did in the original release, but yeah. The original Bonecrusher with the original Constructicons fell off constantly. It's not a big surprise that they would kind of do an homage to making it a pain in the ass. I don't know, but I have to say that I like them both, but this one, again, a little easier to put together. Now, when you compare these guys to someone like Computron, who is a very cool combiner as well, this Devastator is actually more in scale with a lot of the other Combiner Wars toys, except probably Predaking. He is huge in comparison to a lot of the other combiners, which he's kind of supposed to be the best. He never was, but he's kind of supposed to be the best. But if you want something more in scale with your other combiners, this one is definitely a very cool option. And I do understand there are some upgrade kits that you can get for this Devastator. Unfortunately, I don't think they make it in the smaller size for this one, but still, if you want something that is comparable in size to someone like Computron or Defensor or any of those guys, then the knockoff one, much cheaper, much easier to get. They did reissue the Combiner Wars. This is actually the reissue version, and it's very cool, but now it's kind of expensive. So I put links down in the description for both the knockoff and for the actual Combiner Wars. You can have to look on eBay because that's pretty much where he is now. But you're looking at paying about probably twice what the retail was. This guy, I think he cost me maybe $35, $40. So a much cheaper, more reasonably priced toy in comparison. And again, the advantage is same scale as a lot of the other combiners. But you might, like me, want both. So I appreciate you sticking with me throughout this video. Thanks so much for tuning in as you're trying to get your Devastator or play around with your Devastator or get this knockoff. You can always go ahead and check out these other videos over here. Like, share, subscribe, you know, all the normal YouTube stuff. We will definitely see you next time with something hopefully as immense, or maybe, you know, maybe a small one. Who knows? See you next time. As always, have fun and good hunting.